Let's start with the numbers because, they tell you what's actually happening underneath the price chart. Pi Network marked 1 year since the Open Network launch, and here's what the ecosystem looks like. 16.2 million users have migrated to Mainnet. That's not 16.2 million accounts. That's 16.2 million people who completed the migration process, who went through friction, who are actively participating on the blockchain. These are real users, not bots or inactive accounts. 17.7 million users have completed KYC verification. Again, not registered accounts. These are verified identities. These are people who proved who they are. The network is built on trust, not anonymity. That's intentional and fundamental to Pi's philosophy. The network has 421,000 plus active nodes. That's decentralized infrastructure. That's real people running nodes, validating transactions, participating in consensus. The network isn't centralized, it's actually distributed. 9 billion Pi has moved into mainnet wallets. That's not theoretical tokens, that's actual value stored on the network by real users. Users believed enough in the project to migrate their tokens to mainnet. The ecosystem includes 300 plus live apps. That's a developer ecosystem. That's real development happening. Some of these apps are being used, not just sitting idle. 148,000 sellers are listed on the map of Pi Commerce platform. That's economic activity, that's real sellers, real commerce, real transactions happening on Pi's network. These metrics matter because they prove Pi isn't just theoretical. It's an operating ecosystem with real participation. That's the opposite of most crypto projects, which are mostly empty infrastructure. But here's the critical perspective. These metrics are impressive compared to hype projects, but they're still early stage compared to mainstream networks. 16.2 million users sounds large until you remember the global smartphone user base is in the billions. 148,000 sellers sounds significant until you compare to established payment networks. The founder is saying, we've built the foundation, now we need to build on it. Dr. Chengdiao Fan's anniversary message focused on something specific. Pi is intentionally different from how most crypto projects operate. She made several key points. First, she emphasized that most blockchains are obsessed with memecoins, NFTs, and price speculation. The crypto market is driven by hype cycles. Projects launch, prices spike, retail traders buy at peaks, whales dump, prices crash, people lose money, and then, repeat. That cycle is fundamental to how crypto operates. Pi is consciously rejecting it. Second, Fan highlighted that Pi focuses on real-world utility, apps that solve actual problems, local commerce, verified user participation. That's not sexy, that doesn't create viral moments, but it creates sustainable ecosystems. Third, she pointed out that Pi avoids the ICO route. No token sale, no massive founder enrichment, no early investor dumps, no pressure to pump price. That removes a massive conflict of interest that every other crypto project has. Founders want to sell tokens while they're expensive. Fourth, she emphasized mobile-first mining. Pi doesn't require expensive hardware. It doesn't consume massive electricity. It works on phones. That makes it genuinely accessible to billions of people in developing countries. ICOs and proof-of-work networks are inherently biased toward wealthy Western participants. Pi's approach is democratizing. Fifth, she stressed the KYC-Verified foundation. This creates trust. It prevents Sybil attacks. It creates accountability. It opens the door to real financial services that require identity verification. No other major cryptocurrency network is built on verified identity. This is foundational. Fan's message essentially says, we're not trying to replicate Bitcoin or Ethereum or chase whatever's trending. We're building infrastructure for real people in the real world. That's a genuinely different approach. The question is whether the market will value it. One of Fan's more interesting points was about KYC verification creating infrastructure for future services. Specifically, she mentioned KYC as a service. Think about what Pi has built, 17.7 million verified identities. That's a verified identity database. That database is valuable. Other businesses could use it. Imagine a financial services company wanting to serve users in developing countries. They need identity verification. Instead of building their own KYC infrastructure, they could use Pi's. That's a potential revenue stream for the network. That's utility beyond payment processing. That's building actual financial infrastructure. But more importantly, it shows Fans thinking about long-term value creation. She's not thinking about next quarter's price. She's thinking about what kind of infrastructure Pi can build that has lasting utility. This creates a network effect. More verified users make the network more valuable. More valuable network attracts more services. More services attract more users. The cycle strengthens, but it also requires trust. It requires maintaining the integrity of the KYC process. It requires not degrading the value of verified identity. That's why Fan emphasizes KYC so heavily. It's the foundation for everything else. The market doesn't understand this yet. The market sees KYC delays and criticizes them. But Fan sees KYC as the most important feature, not an obstacle to get past quickly. This difference in perspective is fundamental. The market wants speed and features. Fan wants trust and foundation. The community response to the anniversary message reveals something important. Pi is dividing people based on their values. Supporters of the utility-first approach are enthusiastic. They see the one-year metrics. They see the ecosystem growing. They see real apps being built. They see commerce happening. They believe that focusing on real utility gives Pi better long-term potential than hype-driven projects. These people think Fan's message is exactly right. We should build real value, not chase speculation. These supporters see the lack of hype as a feature, not a bug. They see the conservative development as careful infrastructure building. They see the delayed DEX rollout as, we're not rushing to launch something broken. That narrative is coherent. It's compelling if you believe in long-term value creation. But there's also significant frustration. Some users have been waiting months for KYC completion. Some are still blocked from migration. The DEX launch has been delayed repeatedly. The price has stayed flat while Bitcoin surged. Users who've been waiting since 2019 for Mainnet want progress. They want results. They want evidence that the utility-first approach is actually working. The market price is at 16 to 17 cents. That's far below early expectations. Some people invested hoping for 100 times returns. They're seeing flat price and getting frustrated. That's real. That's not irrational. This divergence is important because it reveals the fundamental question about Pi's bet. Are people willing to wait for real utility to materialize, or will impatience and price pressure force the project to pivot toward speculation? Fan's message suggests she's willing to stay patient. The market is clearly not. That's the tension. You understand that utility first is philosophically different from speculation first. You need to like this video right now. One click helps the algorithm reach traders who care about actual technology development instead of just price charts. Plus, share this with other Pi community members. They need to hear the founder vision clearly because that vision determines what Pi actually becomes. Everything Fan said in the anniversary message comes down to one thing. Can Pi actually convert 16+ million users into real daily usage? That's not easy. Most users of most apps use them once and abandon them. Engagement drops off. Crypto apps especially have terrible retention. People get a wallet, move money around, then never use it again. Pi needs to change that pattern. It needs to build apps that people actually use every day. It needs to build commerce that works so well that sellers prefer Pi to traditional payment processors. It needs to build utility that's so obvious that 16+ million people all start using Pi simultaneously for real transactions. That's exponentially harder than building the infrastructure. Infrastructure is an engineering problem. Adoption is a human behavior problem. You can't engineer people into using your app. You have to build something they actually want. The current metrics suggest this is possible. 148,000 sellers is real commerce. 300+ apps is real development. But these numbers are still tiny relative to the user base. That's the gap. That's what needs to improve for the utility-first bet to work. If Pi can close that gap, if it can get the majority of the 16+ million users actually using Pi for something meaningful, then the value creates itself. The token becomes useful. The price follows. The network effects strengthen. If Pi can't close that gap, if adoption stays confined to a small subset of users, then the vision collapses. People get impatient. Founders get pressured. The project pivots toward hype and speculation to keep the price up. The original vision dies. Fan's message essentially says she's betting on the first scenario. The market's price action suggests it's betting on the second. That's the real tension. Here's what the next year needs to show for Fan's utility-first vision to gain credibility: real adoption growth. Not just user numbers, but actual usage. Transaction volume, daily active users, commerce throughput. These metrics matter more than total users because they prove people are using Pi for something meaningful. App quality improvement. More apps that actually solve problems. Better developer tools making it easier to build. More developers building on Pi. The 300+ apps need to become over 1,000 apps with actual traction. Seller ecosystem growth. More commerce happening. More variety of goods and services available for Pi. More transactions on the map of Pi. Commerce becoming a real alternative to fiat or other payment methods. KYC service expansion. Other services actually using Pi's identity infrastructure. That would prove the KYC Foundation has value beyond just the Pi network. Community sentiment shift. Right now, supporters and critics are divided. A shift toward more supporters would suggest the utility-first approach is actually working. If these things happen, the bet is proven. If they don't, the bet fails. That's the test. Fan put forward a vision, now she has to execute against it. The metrics will show whether she's succeeding. Thank you for watching this founder vision analysis. Dr. Chengdiao Fan outlined a strategy that's genuinely different from how most crypto projects operate. Whether that strategy works will determine whether Pi succeeds or fails. The one-year metrics show the foundation is being built. The ecosystem is real. The participation is genuine. But the utility-first bet requires more than infrastructure. It requires adoption. It requires people using Pi for real transactions every day. That's the next phase. If you want to stay updated on whether Pi's utility-first approach actually delivers, when DEX launches, when app adoption accelerates, when commerce volume grows, when adoption metrics improve, stay subscribed. We're tracking the real execution against the founder vision. Check out the other videos on TJ Crypto World. We've got deep dives on blockchain adoption patterns, how real utility gets built, founder philosophy and execution, and everything else you need to understand whether cryptocurrency projects are actually viable. I appreciate you watching, I appreciate the Pi community, and I'll see you in the next utility analysis.